Oh, hello, everybody, and good evening, almost late evening, 9:52 at time of recording. This is the Missing Lynx Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Dukowitz, credentialed beat reporter for ZoneCoverage. I cover the Minnesota Lynx and Minnesota Timberwolves as a member of the media, and we finally have a Lynx home loss, which, coming into the second half of the season stretch, there was some teams that I think you can circle. The Dream were one of those teams of how are the Lynx going to stack up against the Dream, especially given kind of the size disparity. And that showed up quite a bit today. Before we break it all down, though, I'm gonna try and do a sponsor read real early here. And thankfully, I don't actually have to do it. So let's go do an ad read quick while people are joining in. When we come back, we'll break down the game, talk about the post-game show. And I am going to, because one person on Twitter told me that I am being too harsh on Bridget Carleton, I am going to, on a night where Bridget Carleton struggled, I am going to make the best Bridget Carleton case on Lynx social media. That's what I'm going to hype up. So we'll be back in a bit. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Lynx Podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. All right, and we're back. So let's start off by just breaking down the game. Talked to Cheryl after the game, got to speak to T and Nafisa Collier after the game, and their message was all pretty on point, that they showed up and did not bring the energy level that Lynx fans are accustomed to seeing out of the Lynx. And frankly, it was pretty obvious. First quarter, they kept it close, but it was kind of kept close just because the Dream weren't really clicking on all cylinders. Second quarter starts and everything is going through Brittany Griner. I mean, every possession she touched the ball, and the Lynx were kind of daring her almost to make the right play, whether it was, sagging off of a corner 3-point shot, whether it was kind of doubling like a kind of weak double, not really fully committing to it, but showing an extra hand. And Griner just did not make a mistake. I mean, when the shot was there, she took it. She even hit a 3, which, tip of the cap to Brittany Griner. That was pretty interesting. But she just was moving the ball really well. She was setting screens. She was touching the ball, taking a couple dribbles, kicking it back out to the corner. Timing was really good. And the Lynx just really seemed out of sorts on defense. They were not crisp. They weren't really playing up to the level very much. They weren't really getting into ball handlers very much. And that's how you get a, 14-point deficit going into the half. Offensively, the Lynx just looked out of sorts. Not a lot of, I shouldn't say not a lot of anything. They were getting good shots. K-Mac was getting good shots. She, front ironed a couple threes and then side of the backboard, or not side, but missed rim and hit the backboard solely on another 3. She missed a couple normal K-Mac kind of inside the arc shots as well. Bridget Carleton, had a couple just like mid-range fadeaway shots that she got open. She created the space, just couldn't hit them. Courtney Williams was struggling. She couldn't really get anything to fall. I think she played a little bit better in the second quarter, but she had a real quick hook in the first quarter. And then over on the bench was talking to Waylon like pretty intensely for 3 or 4 minutes. It was a really bad first half, and Cheryl kind of talked about it after the game, that it just seemed like they weren't ready to play, that they weren't at their intensity level. They weren't getting into it on the ball. They weren't really showing the effort. And I hate calling out players' effort, but I've mentioned it plenty of times on the pod. When somebody else, when Cheryl Reeve is saying my team didn't play with effort, I feel pretty confident of saying maybe Cheryl is right, and tonight was an effort issue. Third quarter, though, they came out of the third quarter, and after about a minute, BC had a kind of like a weird, the foul looked worse than it was. I think BC got like minimal contact on someone from behind, and they flopped, and Cheryl kind of gave a quick hook to BC and put Diamond out there, and it was pretty obvious what Diamond's role was. She full court pressed or trapped on every possession, and she was just put out there to be as intense as humanly possible. Lynx had a really good run, ended up outscoring the Dream by quick math, 8 points in the third quarter, went into the fourth quarter with the momentum. It's also a weird quarter because again, the offense didn't seem to be clicking very well. Like Diamond hit a three, and kind of they willed things to happen. It wasn't as free flowing as their offense normally is. And I think to me, the biggest indicator of that is they finished the game with 28 assists on 37 shots. Normally they're at almost 80% on assists to made baskets ratio. And tonight they were a lot closer to 75-ish. It's just a weird game. There's also just stoppages I think twice at the end of the second quarter, they had to put time back on for a heave to start the third quarter. Maybe it's the first going into the second. Then there was another, they reviewed a shot at the end of the quarter and put more time on going into the fourth. It was just a messy officiated game, and it was just a rough offensive game for the Lynx. Fourth quarter starts, and honestly, the offense looked great going into the fourth quarter. They were moving the ball, they were pushing it, they were scoring kind of, basket for basket with the Dream, and the defense fell off a cliff again, which again, Cheryl, we talked to after the game, and she said the fourth quarter, whatever happened, that defensive intensity just left starting that fourth quarter. She's I don't know why. If I could sense it coming, I would do something to stop it, but it just disappears. And then, the Lynx find themselves down 13 with, little over 3 minutes left. And they mount this comeback to where they get it to 3 and end up just kind of not having enough in the tank. They were getting, I was talking to Terry Horseman of the Next that sits next to me. I was talking to him and just kind of saying, if the Lynx played inbound defense and this type of intensity in the first quarter, they probably could take most fourth quarters off because they would be winning by so much. But it ended up just being too little too late in this one. I do think the other notable thing Cheryl said was, it was in a question I asked, just what Diamond Miller, if that switch from BC to Diamond was just looking for a kickstart, kind of energy wise. And Cheryl answered that yes, the thought process was Diamond just gets into it a little bit more. But then she kind of diverted, and she was just saying in late game situations, we need to go to our big three, meaning K-Mac, Fee, and Courtney. And she kind of made reference that Courtney didn't really hold her end of the bargain tonight, saying, she threw a pass to Diamond where Diamond's not even open, and they need to go to their big three. It should be Fee, Court, and K-Mac. And I kind of don't disagree. Fee was incredible tonight. 14 of 18, 32 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. She tied Maya Moore tonight for the most 30.5 rebound, 5 assist or more games in franchise history with her third. She did it in 80 something less games than Maya Moore. She was unbelievable tonight. And it seemed for large stretches of this game, she was not really involved on every play, which Some of that is court. I mean, we know as Lynx fans and as people who cover the team that you live by Courtney Williams. I mean, last game, Courtney Williams was perfect. And then some games you're going to die by Courtney Williams, where she is shooting threes early in the shot clock or forcing a mid-range or not seeing the court as well. I mean, though, if I was going to push back on Cheryl at all, I would, Court had 9 assists, 3 turnovers. Like, she was moving the ball. I think there was, K-Mac obviously wasn't really involved in the offense for large stretches of the game. And then on a night like this where Fee is just a juggernaut, like, I think you could argue that she should be getting like 25 shots and not 18. But to me, I really agree with Coach. It was just that first half, they dug themselves into such a hole because of how they were playing that no matter what they did in that third quarter and how they closed the fourth, that was just too big of a mountain to climb at the end of the game. Again, the other, I like to at least highlight T had a pretty darn good game, 10 points, 1 turnover, had 3 assists. She hit a couple huge shots in the third and fourth quarter. Jessica Shepard was fantastic as always. It's interesting with Jess because she only played like 2 minutes in the first half, ended up playing 11 in the second half and really being an impact player. I unfortunately, like, her game isn't going to shine the way it should on the stat sheet because 3 rebounds, 4 points, it doesn't pop, but she was awesome tonight, especially playing kind of undersized. Last thing I want to touch on before we go to another ad read, and then I do a mounted Bridget Carleton. It's not going to be a sarcastic Bridget Carleton. So I do want to give Bridget her due because I have been hard on her for the shooting at times. But before we get into that, Lana Smith went down in the fourth quarter with an ankle injury. Looked really bad. I mean, she quite literally crawled off the court and then kind of used the announce table to stand back up, walked straight back to the locker room, came back out to the bench a few minutes later. She was standing on it. It's not like T's ankle sprain from late last week where T comes back out to the bench and she's just sitting there with her ankle iced. Lan was kind of popping up and down, cheering on her teammates. I think it was probably a good decision not to put her back in because let's be honest, that gal she is the toughest person I've ever covered for sure. But the amount of just abuse, elbows, shoulders she takes, falls, gets her legs tangled up. And Fee after the game just kind of said it, like, Lan always gets up. And she got up again today. I would be surprised if she misses any time, but just notable that she did miss the kind of comeback last couple minutes of this game. So let's go over to an ad here quick. And then when we come back, we'll talk some BC. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. So what I would say with BC is her value to the Lynx will never show up truly in a box score or even advanced stats. BC is kind of an enigma. She is the best wing defensive player on the team, hands down. K-Mac's probably the best guard defender. BC can guard anyone from like 5'7" to 6'1". Like, BC can pretty much eliminate them single-handedly. Her attention to detail on defense, her ability to switch, her ability to close out is all like top tier. BC should be an all defensive second team or at least in the conversation. Offensively, BC is a tricky person to evaluate because so much is put on her shooting, which objectively speaking, she's having a tough shooting year. She's about 35% from three. She's not hitting them above the break at the same clip. I commented on my Cheryl question about BC, just kind of like her exact numbers, if anyone is interested in looking at the exact numbers. But she's had about an 8% dip in her true shooting, or in her effective field goal true shooting, and her 3-point percentage above the break, which that was BC's superpower last year. She would kind of take a dribble handoff, hide behind the screen, launch a deep three, and she shot that at like over 40%. This season, she's not hitting it at that clip. So I think the most eye-popping thing is just that BC is not hitting the shots at that clip. But if you dig in, I mean, she is posting the best offensive rating of her career. She's posting her best net rating of her career. She has a career high in assist to turnover ratio. I do think she is like a very undervalued playmaker. Obviously you can't like run an offense for her, but if she catches it on the wing, drives around a pick, she makes the right pass. She will dip it into a post player. She'll kick it back out to a wing. Like, she is an adapt playmaker. I do think that's something that the next step for BC is going to be kind of developing that K-Mac role where she has a little bit more ball handling to her, but like, she is a good playmaker. The thing that's hard to explain with BC is how much she just means energy wise to this team. This is someone who has done everything the coaching staff has asked. This is someone who came from, she came from not getting any minutes to getting a little bench role, to getting a sixth woman role, to getting last season beating out Diamond Miller and getting the starting lineup and cementing herself in that starting lineup. And now she is that starting small forward. And I think players look at that as someone they want to go to battle with. It's not something you can put on a stat sheet though. So I can't, come out and say like Bridget Carleton's chemistry is plus 10 or something. It's just people like playing with her. The other thing I'll say is, talking with the team over the last year and a half, a lot of times what they say with BC is that she just doesn't make mistakes. She is always where she's supposed to be on defense. She is always making the right read on offense. She helps when she's supposed to. She gets in the right spot. She understands her spacing. And Cheryl actually made a comment earlier in the season that BC is kind of the Courtney Williams calm down person on the team, where like, if Courtney doesn't know what play they're running, BC is the one that tells her. If Courtney's getting a little too, dribble happy, BC's the one that kind of straightens that out and gets them into an offensive set. Again, those don't pop up on a box sheet. So it's hard to explain that to people. And the reason I bring this up, not only because someone on Twitter said I was too mean to Bridget Carleton, and I wanted to clear my name, because I do really like Bridget Carleton. Like, if we're going to do the WNBA NBA thing for Wolves fans that are in this listening to it, she is the Jaden McDaniels of this team. Like, I love her play style. She's a really good person. What's tough is now there's a lot of trade rumors going on. And Bridget Carleton is often the person that I see in the trade machines. And I'm going to plant my flag firmly in this team cannot trade Bridget Carleton camp, because I think from a chemistry standpoint, that would be horrible. Like this, she's well liked. She does all of the little things. She doesn't make mistakes. She's reliable. She's a good teammate, ball mover. I would bet that by the end of the season, she's hitting shots and she has kind of cemented herself as okay, this is my position. I am comfortable here. I'm making shots. I'm doing all the little things. Whereas if they were to trade her, I just don't know how the team would take that. I mean, obviously sports is a business, right? So they'd probably move on and get over it. But also a trade like that, when you're trading someone out who is like a veteran, a leader in the locker room, someone that's dependable, she came up with fee. I mean, that can really do a lot of damage. So I'm planting my flag on the do not trade Bridget Carleton Island. I am going to say Bridget Carleton this season is complicated because she is so good at the little things and not making mistakes. But objectively, she has to shoot better. And when we're grading this team on a championship curve, because that's what their stated goal is, it is championship or bust, Bridget has to get back to that 38%, 39% three-point shooting. And, if she doesn't, does that mean they can't win a ring? No, it doesn't mean that they can't win a ring. It would just make it a little bit easier if she was hitting, one extra three every 2 games. And that's the thing that also I think is important for fans, not only for like Bridget Carleton, but also K-Mac, who struggled shooting tonight. The difference between like a 40% three-point shooter and a 33% shooter is literally like a 3 every other game that they're hitting. The Lynx probably aren't in a desperation mode where they need to hit every single 3. They're probably going to blow out a lot of games towards the end of the season. But I mean, Bridget, if she starts hitting at the clip she was hitting at last year, she becomes like absolutely like invaluable for this team. I am going to preview the Liberty game here real quick. If anyone has comments or questions, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, or X, please drop them in the comment section. I do love fan interaction, answering questions. But we do have a game on Wednesday against the Liberty. This is the first time the Lynx are going to be facing the Liberty since the championship game. I do have Lucas Kaplan popping on. He writes for Swish Theory and covers the Liberty as a member of the beat with credentials over in New York. He's going to be hopping on for kind of a one-off pod tomorrow, Monday. That'll probably come out Wednesday morning, and we're going to talk a whole lot of Liberty Lynx because those are kind of the 2 clear-cut above everyone else teams. Now, unfortunately for the Liberty, it is very up in the air of whether Brianna Stewart will be playing on Wednesday. I did check in with Lucas before I recorded here, and he said that all the team is putting out is that she avoided significant injury, but that they don't have like a probable, doubtful, questionable, like any sort of grade or any explanation of what that injury would be. I think, Emma Messman is expected not to come over until August. She's dealing with some immigration stuff, it sounds like, which, I mean, it's the world we live in now. So I'm sure she will be here by the end of August, but she's probably not going to be here by Wednesday is the vibe I'm getting. So what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? It means that this is going to be a Lynx team that should be able to beat a shorthanded Liberty team. I mean, even with Tosh Cloud, Sabrina, and Jonquel Jones, the Lynx, I think, have a pretty good crack at that, especially being at home. Mariah on TikTok and Ryan both asked kind of the same question. Mariah, is there a sense that we will sign someone else, or was there not a plan B after not getting M? I will say, I think they have a plan B. I think they are trying to figure out the best trade they can get with the Carly Samuelson contract. They can trade injured players in the WNBA. If you take Carly's contract and add $45,000 to it, it gets you to about $150,000. That gets you to a place where you can get a really good player back. You'd probably have to add like a 2028 first round pick or something, but I think that might be the route they're going. The other route I was kind of kicking around with the beat reporters was, what if they threw out that Chicago Sky pick? What if they said Carly Samuelson, Diamond Miller, available cap room, that gets them up to about $250,000 in money that they could take in, and then they throw that Chicago pick in? Any player you'd get is going to be a 1-year rental, so not ideal. But who could you go big league hunting for after that? If the Aces are hearing from Asia's camp that she doesn't want to sign, could that offer get Asia? Just something to think about. I think that's why this hasn't come out yet. I have no reporting on it other than just speculation. But like, I think that's why nothing has happened yet, because they're trying to figure out what value they can get back. And they kind of have the contract money and picks to get anything. So I'm expecting in the next, I think the deadline's like August 10th or 8th or something like that. I don't have my phone up, obviously, because it's TikToking right now. But I would expect maybe late this week, early the week after, that they pull off some sort of trade. Ryan asked, do you think they would ever bring Peely back? Interestingly enough, like Cheryl said that when we asked her about it, that, this isn't the last for Cheryl or for Alyssa Peely in the W. And at the same time, she said this might not be the last for Peely in a Lynx uniform. So I do think there could be a possibility where, they make this trade, they make this move, and then with whatever salaries left over, because Peely played this season, they don't have to sign her for a full veterans minimum. I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back and is kind of like that 12th, 13th person on the roster, or not 13th. I'm thinking NBA, 11th or 12th person on the roster. I did see another comment here in TikTok. What's your take on the talk of the Lynx have a ceiling because not having a true center? Tonight was kind of the case for both having a ceiling and not having a ceiling. When this Lynx team, like they did in the third quarter, kicks it into another gear, they can hang with anyone. Their ability to ball pressure anyone dribbling the ball up, their ability to collapse and poke at balls. Lan is, really good at being an undersized center. The problem with that is it's so much energy you have to put in. Full court pressing is not fun. Like Diamond Miller, I think is a great, have her come off the bench for 15 minutes, full court press every second of that. But like, that's not a sustainable thing. So if you're looking at like, can the Lynx win a championship by being small? Yeah, they could, because their defense and ball pressure is that good. And their offense is probably going to finish number 1 or number 2 in the league. So like they have that chance. But for the people that are saying, they're not going to be able to beat like a Liberty, or if they match up against like Atlanta and in a long series, there's also points to that too, because for them to beat them, they need to play like hair on fire, insane defense in if it's in the finals, in 4 out of 7 games, and the 3 games that they lose, they're probably absolutely gassed. So it's hard to see what their ceiling would be. If me, covering the team as a beat reporter and being around the team a lot, I would say that their size isn't going to be what stops them from winning a championship. I think they have so much shooting. They have so much. Fee is insane and dominant on offense. I don't think they're going to have a ceiling because of it, because they don't have a true center to kind of match up. But I do think that the playoffs are not going to be a walk in the park. I don't think we're going to see the Lynx go, what would it be, 4, 7, 9. I don't think the Lynx are going to go like 9-2 on their way to winning a championship in the playoffs. It's probably going to be a lot of long series where they just eke it out because Cheryl and the team just figures it out, or someone gets hot and steals a game. But on a night like tonight where Brittany Griner is just getting everything at will, it's tough to say they don't need size. The other thing I would add to that is they might still be getting size. It's kind of up in the air right now. Marie asks on Twitter here, in terms of possible trades, do you think the team needs a big or another guard? I'm terrified that T or Courtney is going to get injured at some point. So I think they need another guard. They just need someone that can handle the ball and run the offense. I know some people have been saying like Odyssey Sims is a free agent. Maybe go get her. I don't know what that would do. I think they need another guard, someone that can just take pressure off of Courtney and T, or if heaven forbid one of them goes down injured, I think another guard also takes a little bit of pressure off of K-Mac, who has been having to play a ton of minutes this season because Carly went down. And even, like if Diamond kind of falls off and her shooting falls off, another guard can kind of help spread that out as well. Now, the big case, I think, is looking at New York almost specifically of this team is going to have Stewie, Jones, and Emma. How in the world is this Lynx team going to match up with it? That the nice thing with where the Lynx are sitting is they can kind of have their cake and eat it. I mean, they can trade that Carly contract out. They could trade Diamond paired with her, throw in a pick and get 2 players back, like a point guard and a big. The kind of not nice thing, because it's never great when teams are bad, but would the Valkyries be interested in a trade like that to get another pick in the future? Would Connecticut be interested in, like, if they can make the salaries work, like sending out Maybury and a big in exchange for that because they're getting the pick? I do think there's a way where they can address all of their needs, is kind of the moral of that spiel. And then, I mean, to Ryan's point, you could also see them, after they address those needs, bringing back Peely on a really cheap contract. I am going to wrap up here quick, but Mariah, I also would hate to see Diamond go too. She is, like, behind the scenes, she is one of the nicest human beings, like, I've met in life. Like, she's always positive. She's always putting in the work. She's just such a, like, good person that I would hate to see her leave the Lynx. That being said, I think, if Diamond got 28 minutes on a bad team, she might be able to kind of rebuild her career a little faster. But yeah, selfishly, I don't want to see Diamond go either. She's a delightful person to coverage. Okay, so I will be back. Let's see here. Wednesday morning, we'll have a pod coming out with Lucas Kaplan from Swish Theory, covering the Liberty and Lynx upcoming 4 games, and I think it's 20 days. And then we will be back with another post-game live after that Liberty series. You can always catch them on YouTube, X, or over on TikTok. And for people who are new to this, they all get published on Spotify and Apple. They live on forever on YouTube and on X. And you can always catch up if you came in late the next day. So until next time, everyone, go Lynx.